We will call this meeting to order at 7:01 a.m. And thank you for all being here. We do have a few changes in the way we are conducting our meeting this morning. And Jared, could you please explain those changes for those online?
Absolutely. For those of you who are joining us online, we have a 27-member board of trustees. So we are looking for ways to expedite our voting process, but then also to make that a transparent process for also for the members of the public that may be joining us. So we are going to be implementing a vote by poll feature within Zoom today for one of our agenda items. So this necessitates that we also live stream this to our YouTube page so that members of the public can actively participate and view this meeting this morning. We will test this out on the consent calendar item number 3. You'll see a poll appear on your screen, and we will ask you to indicate your preference for that item at that time. The comments from the public, you can make a request to make a comment on a particular agenda item if you are viewing us live on the YouTube page, and a member of the staff will admit you into this Zoom meeting. However, the preference there is still that you please do submit written comments on any agenda item that you would like to provide those comments for.
Thank you very much. I will then explain. Are we getting a little bit of feedback?
A little bit. I'm just going to ask members that if you're not speaking, please do mute yourself.
Okay. We will start then with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Trustee Barakat if he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll also ask that you all make sure that your mics are muted except for Rick's.
Actually, Becky, I think I'd like to, I'm having a little trouble with my computer. I'm trying to get my screen to work.
Okay.
I think I need to pass on this time. Thank you, though.
Okay, no problem. Then how about Trustee Dr. Alan Wu?
Hi, good morning. Sorry, I kind of, let's stand up and then face to our flag and let's start it. Let's start, okay. I praise the Legion
to the flag
of the United States of America,
for which it stands, one nation under God,
one nation,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you very much. I think we're all having some computer issues this morning. Sorry about that. Okay, Marta, could you please take our roll call, please? And now you can unmute yourself.
All right. Let's begin with Alhambra.
Here. Stephen Pham.
Arcadia. Azusa.
Here.
Bradbury.
Here.
Claremont.
Present.
Covina. Duarte.
Margaret Finley, present.
El Monte.
Present.
Glendora.
Present.
Industry. Irwindale.
Present.
La Puente.
Present.
Laverne. Los Angeles County. Monrovia.
Here.
Monterey Park.
Joseph Leon, present.
Pasadena.
Present.
Pomona.
Here.
Rosemead, excuse me.
Present.
San Dimas. San Gabriel.
Present.
Sierra Madre.
John Capocha is here.
South Pasadena,
Here.
Temple City,
Here.
Walnut,
Here.
West Covina.
Here.
Anyone that I missed? And this completes roll call, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Now we will move on to public comment. And as we have been conducting these meetings online and virtually, people from the individuals from the public have been able to email their public comments prior to the meeting. And this morning also, is there anyone that is online this morning, Marta or Jared, that is wanting to make public comment?
I have not received any messages from the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Not seeing or hearing any public comment, we will then move on to our consent calendar, which are items 3.1 to 3.7. Now, this is where we're going to try this new polling procedure. So Jared, will you please explain our procedure here?
Absolutely. So we will take a motion for the consent calendar item. When we have a motion in a second, then I will implement the poll. You will see the poll, which will ask to indicate your vote on this item pop up on your screen, and please just select yes or no. Once we have all of the votes tabulated, I will share the results with you. And they will be entered into the record as an official vote on that item. If there is a dissenting vote on this item, then we will conduct a roll call vote just to make sure that that is recorded in posterity.
Great. And also in this polling system, the way it will work, I will also ask first if anyone has to abstain. I will be asking, and that will be answered separately. So now, consent calendar, items 3.1 to 3.7. Do we have a motion to approve?
Armenta to approve.
Second from Gonzalez.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve our consent calendar. Director Deaver, would you please? Okay. You will see there. And first I need to ask, are there any trustees that need to abstain from the consent calendar? Not hearing any, then will you please go ahead and vote yes or no on the consent calendar? Are all of you seeing the little poll that's popped up on your screen?
Yes. Yes.
Good. Okay. All right.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
How are people voting if they're on the phone?
We said that we would take a voice vote for that. I forgot that. Thank you, Corey, for bringing that up. Since I'm not, let me see here. Who do we have that? Let me see here. Manuel Garcia is on the phone. And
I believe Trustee Morgan is on the phone and Trustee Chandler as well.
Chandler. Okay, if we can we do it that way? Jared, then take a voice vote for them.
From the balance of the group, yes. We should be good.
Okay. So if those who are on the phone, if you could unmute yourself. Manuel?
Yes.
Okay, your vote is yes. Roger Chandler?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And then you said we had one more?
Actually, I think Trustee Morgan is joining us on a computer this morning, so.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Were we successful?
I believe you have Joseph Leon on the phone as well.
No, I'm on the computer and I saw it and I submitted it.
Okay,
All right.
Did you get my vote?
It looks like we did, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead and conclude voting.
okay, we will now conclude voting.
And go ahead and share the results. Now you should see the results of those votings on your screen. Okay. All right, and so with that, the item does pass, Madam President.
Thank you very much. And thank you for participating in our poll vote this morning. I think we'll get better in time. And so most likely going forward, we will be doing that at least on our consent calendar. Okay, thank you. And then, so we are moving along then to item 4, presentation of the sterile insect technology overview. And that is Program Manager Melissa Doyle. You all, you did receive a separate overview of her report, but she is now to give us her slide presentation. Melissa?
Okay, so Melissa pre-recorded this. Oh, go ahead.
Jared, the poll is still up on my screen.
Okay, so you, the poll's ended, so go ahead and just click off of that one. We'll let you.
Okay.
Awesome, there you go. So Melissa did pre-record her presentation, so we get to keep the timing for the Zoom meeting today. But she'll be available for questions at the conclusion of her presentation, and as will I. So Melissa, I'll get you started here.
Really quick, Jared, I'm sorry. There is a block, I think it might be a Zoom window that's in front of the video, or it's to the right-hand side of it. It's blocking a portion of the video there. Oh, there it goes, it's minimized.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, stay with us for our technical issues this morning.
It's been quite a morning, but again, it was pre-recorded, so she will take questions at the end.
Right.
It's Melissa Doyle, and I'm the Scientific Program Manager at San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. Today, I'm going to be talking about our in-house sterile insect technique project proposal. Right now, I'm going to be going over our history with Aedes. This is an invasive species that's created a lot of challenges for the district in the past few years. I'll also be discussing sterile insect technique, also known as SIT, and I'll be talking about some potential SIT applications here in San Gabriel Valley. So all about the Aedes. The Aedes are an invasive species group. So we do have some native Aedes species, but they live in natural areas such as forested areas. But in 2011, unfortunately, we identified this mosquito in our area. We have 3 types of this mosquito. There's the Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, and Aedes nodoscriptus. All 3 are able to vector diseases such as dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, and Zika virus.
Mosquito.
These Aedes are a huge challenge to the district. These mosquitoes are daytime biters, so they're out when we're out. They live near people. And since they've arrived, we've seen a huge increase in our service needs. So this is talking about residents calling us, trying to get help to solve their problem with the mosquitoes. So if you look at this photograph here, you can see a really beautiful landscape, but unfortunately, each one of these plants is able to hold enough water to breed these mosquitoes. So if you have a nice lush tropical backyard, there's a good chance you're going to have a pretty severe Aedes issue. And on top of that, so are your neighbors. Because once these guys are established, they're really difficult to bring to a tolerable threshold just because they're able to utilize such small spaces to breed and to grow as larvae. And as I said, if one person has an issue in your neighborhood with Aedes, most likely your whole neighborhood is going to have a problem with them. The big question is, where are the Aedes in San Gabriel Valley? And the short answer is they're everywhere. Each one of these little blue dots represents a place where we've collected Aedes. So it doesn't really matter where you are, what kind of what kind of spot you're in the district, most likely you're going to encounter these mosquitoes at some point during the season. From a district perspective, Aedes creates a lot of challenges for us. These imported mosquitoes, they come to us already resistant to available treatments. So in the United States, we've created laws to regulate what kind of pesticides are used and how much of these pesticides are used. In the places where these mosquitoes are coming from, they don't have these laws. So these mosquitoes have been treated with a lot of pesticides and have developed resistance that they're already coming to us with. Another challenge is that residents are actively looking for solutions to help with this problem, and they would like for us to do more. However, we only have so many tools in our toolbox to combat this very difficult pest. And one thing that makes these pests so difficult for us to control is they live in these really tiny spots, cryptic breeding areas, and also too, they congregate in very low numbers. Our native mosquitoes congregate in large numbers, making it easier for us to find them and to treat them on a widespread basis. Unfortunately, these mosquitoes, they're solitary little fellows and ladies, and they're difficult for us to find using traditional techniques. Some of the techniques and strategies we've used up to present day is door-to-door inspections. So extensive door-to-door inspections where our staff would go into yards and they would just look for breeding areas. And then they would use that information once they found it, and they would dump out those containers, and then they move on to the next place. So as you can imagine, that takes a lot of time, a lot of man hours. We also provided backpack applications in areas that really needed them. And then again, these backpack applications, they work. However, it's labor intensive. One person can only do so many in a day, and we have about 2 million residents. So, and about 50 full-time staff. So, the math doesn't really work out on that. We've tried truck-mounted applications. In a lot of areas in the country, they're able to do truck-mounted applications, but unfortunately in our area, the environmental conditions really don't support proper application. And it just ends up that you're wasting your product, your pesticide, and nobody wants to put pesticide into the environment unless they have to. So it's a real shame that these application methods don't work so well for us. We've also really educated our residents. Our residents are thirsty for knowledge about this issue, and we provide them as much information as we can. Unfortunately, we can learn about tipping and tossing, but it's it's not always the problem with our man-made containers. It's also containers in the environment. So we're very lucky at how educated our residents are. We also did some trial work with some lethal traps that are newly available. They're called into-care traps. And these traps, basically, they will work if you inundate an area with these traps. However, they're very labor intensive again, and they're expensive. So we did find a good decrease in a small area that we trialed these at when we trialed them at the label rate. However, it required a huge amount of effort and man hours. So it was quite expensive treatment for such a small area, and that's not necessarily something that can be distributed across the district. And as that previous map showed you, this is an issue across the district. It's just not one small area. So basically, we've done a lot of labor-intensive efforts, and we're not getting these huge decreases in populations for the amount of effort we're putting in right now. That brings us to SIT. It's a new application of a proven technique. I worked in a few different labs with this fruit fly that I'm going to talk about. It's a great technique because it uses the insects to control the populations. It uses their natural biology of searching for a mate and then mating to create fewer eggs out in the environment. So it's safe for the environment. Unlike pesticides, it's very species specific. These mosquitoes will only mate with other mosquitoes of their same species for the most part. I'm not going to go into the weeds on that one, but overall, it's really safe for the environment. We're not going to be hurting any bees. We're not going to be putting pesticide out there on any kind of native pollinators. So that's a great thing. And it's already commonly used for agricultural pests. Fruit fly in LA County is controlled by releases that are done by airplane every week across LA County to ensure that our citrus products within LA County are safe to trade with others. SIT with mosquitoes. So back in the day, when in the 30s and 40s, when they were first pioneering this technique, They were using nuclear material to sterilize the male mosquitoes. Nuclear material is difficult to control. It's decaying matter, so it's not very specific. Recently, there's been really new innovations that provide using X-ray technology to sterilize the male mosquitoes. And it's a very specific technology so that you get an even radiation on these mosquitoes and it doesn't impact their fitness. And when I'm talking about fitness, it means it doesn't impact their ability to find wild females. So we're going to put these mosquitoes into the X-ray machine, we'll X-ray them, and then we'll take them out into the field and we'll release them. And now, once we release them, they're going to be sterile. So they're not creating more of a problem for our residents. Once the mosquito is out in the field, that mosquito is going to do the job of finding those wild females. That mosquito is much better at finding the female mosquitoes than we are because that's what they're meant to do. They're really meant to do their job. So they're going to go out and they're going to mate with the wild female mosquitoes. And after that mating happens, our wild females will no longer be able to produce eggs. So right now there are a few options for SIT in San Gabriel Valley. So the first one is genetic. That process is going to be available for experimental use in 2024. That means that we would be able to register use for that in a very small specific area and trial the technique in the area. These mosquitoes would be created through a company. The company would raise the mosquitoes and then sterilize them genetically. It's a really interesting process. However, it's not really in the scope of this presentation to talk about. Another option would be the bacterial process, the Wolbachia process. We had Dr. Dobson talk to us about that. And that company is in the process of obtaining permits, and production facilities are not yet established in the area. So again, it's going to be a couple of years, hopefully, until that option is available to us to use. And the other option is irradiation, and that's allowed right now. We don't need any permits. We're not adding anything into the mosquito. So this mosquito is not considered a pesticide, whereas the genetic and bacterial versions of sterilized male mosquitoes are considered a quote unquote pesticide because there is a foreign entity treated onto them. So it changes the mosquitoes. However, if we irradiate the mosquitoes, that is not a changed mosquito. That's an irradiated mosquito and it's allowed to be released. There are a lot of pros and cons to in-house SIT. There's the really great pros. There's the reduced risk of disease transmission. Last year, actually 2019, I don't think that 2020 numbers are out quite yet, but there were over 600,000 cases of dengue worldwide. We have a lot of residents that travel into dengue endemic areas. So every time someone comes back with a mosquito bite, there's always a chance that they're going to be bringing home not only souvenirs, but dengue virus or another tropical such disease that's transmitted by these mosquitoes that we now have. A huge pro for this would be a decreased biting pressure. Our residents are really feeling the bite on this. They're not able to use their yards in the same way that they used to. A lot of the people, your neighbors in your area, they want to use their pools, they want to barbecue outside, but it's really difficult to do that when you're constantly getting bit by these mosquitoes. Another huge pro of using this SIT technique from an in-house perspective is that it's a local solution for a local problem. This is going to be people that are hired from our area to perform this work. So it's reinvesting in our community to provide a local solution for something that we desperately need. The cons of this, it's labor intensive. It's going to take people to release these mosquitoes. It's going to take people to rear these mosquitoes. As we start the program, I think we can, work with minimal staff just to rear and then use our current staff to help with the releases. If we find that this is a viable technique, that has the potential to increase. So it's labor intense. It requires specialized facilities and equipment. You need a particular kind of rearing tray to rear this many mosquitoes in a small area. You need an irradiator to irradiate the mosquitoes. So, there's definitely specialized facilities and equipment that are required. Another con is that it's a high cost to establish a program like this. It's not very much to maintain, but it is expensive to start out because you have to buy specific machinery and specific equipment. Another thing which could be considered a con is that the releases must be done continually. So once you begin releases, you have to constantly add your irradiated male mosquitoes to the wild population to ensure that you're reducing the generations following. And it takes a bit of time to work. This is a caveat in a lot of places that are doing this. They're seeing results in the first season. Potentially it could take a couple seasons to establish. However, right now the people that are doing this in Florida, they're seeing decreases immediately within that season in comparison to areas that aren't having releases. So our next steps, of course, is to pursue potentially pursue a regional vector control agency partnership for production and distribution. So we're actively looking for partners in our area that would like to take this adventure with us. Another thing is that we could consider consulting with an industry professional to perform an SIT viability study. And along with that, we should also consider a small scale production proof of concept so that we can assure that this endeavor will help us in the way that we project that it will. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation about sterile insect technique, and I am available, and Jared's available for questions if you have them. Thank you so much.
Okay, if there's anyone having any question, and thank you, Melissa, for that presentation. Do we have any questions? I'm not seeing any raised hands. Jared, I was going to ask you just very briefly, and really in talking about the next steps or why we had this presentation, if you could just briefly comment on that. This is just for an information item and we're not voting on it, but I wanted, Jared, if you could just say a few more words regarding next steps or possible next steps.
Absolutely. So we, as you remember, before COVID, about a year and a half ago, we did have Dr. Steve Dobson come and speak to the Board of Trustees, presenting the idea of the Wolbachia in infected mosquitoes. However, that technology, in addition to the genetically modified mosquitoes that are being released in Brazil and also in the Florida Keys currently, both of those technologies are simply not at a place where they're available and or affordable to our agency at this time. And it could be many years before they are a viable option for us to use. So the SIT presentation was requested to give us a little deeper look into the irradiation technology, but also to educate the trustees about its availability and possibly its pricing as we move forward in our long-term planning for our facility. So this was also requested from the ad hoc facility committee as we explore options for either rebuilding some of our facility to facilitate an SIT program in-house, or also to explore what would that look like as a collective collaborative effort in Southern California with the other vector control agencies that are all concurrently looking at these technologies to provide relief and also disease suppression and intervention. So hopefully that was a little bit more educational about those technologies and the rationale for using them. The handout that you received that was emailed to you, that is a draft version of our SIT proposal. It does have a costing breakdown in there of the equipment that would be necessary to start this program in-house. And there's some options in there also for what a leasing option would look like to spread that financial investment over about the course of the first 5 years. I will say, though, that there has been a lot of interest in the radiation technology from our surrounding agencies. It looks like all of the vector control agencies in Southern California are coming to the same conclusion that this might be the best technology to pursue. And I think Melissa had mentioned it in the presentation. One of the one of the driving forces behind that decision is that you can put basically whatever species you like into the machine. So this not only applies for the 3 different species of Aedes that we're currently battling, but also our native Culex species, which are the primary transmitter of West Nile virus. So it has multiple advantages there. But I do see there are 2 raised hands, and I'd like to get to those questions from our trustees.
Certainly, I'm not seeing them on my side, so could you please call upon them?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll go in order on my screen. Trustee Kaposha.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of questions. How do we assess the threat of disease from these? I mean, so far they've been here for 4 or 5 years now, and we've had no cases of vector transmission of diseases. So how do we evaluate that?
Yeah, so we have population levels that are comparable to areas in Florida that have local transmission. So basically, we just need the people with the disease, and we have the potential for it here, which is a little scary from our perspective.
Has there been any scientific analysis of that to say that the probability of this happening is such and such in the next 5 years?
The short answer, no. I don't know how one would calculate that, just considering the amount of variables that are around, but I can definitely, I haven't seen a calculation like that done, but I can definitely look into that. I'll look through the research for that to be sure.
Okay,
but
it just seems to me that this should be not something for our district, but just
no.
California, across the West, everybody I would think would come to some sort of consensus that this is a necessary thing to do.
Where mosquitoes are involved and where arbovirus transmission is involved, it's really hard to have a good crystal ball to predict that kind of thing. The fact that we have these mosquitoes at the infestation levels that we have suggests that we definitely could have transmission here. We get reports every year from the health department of people that report that they have these diseases. Unfortunately, a lot of the folks that travel to these disease endemic areas, they're used to these diseases, so it doesn't really seem like something that they're going to report to their doctor unless things get really bad. So if these folks that have a low level infection of these diseases don't report anything, we have no advance warning that it's coming. So basically our advance warning is that we have the vector and we're on guard the whole season.
Okay, I do think that's necessary to have some form of analysis, though. I mean, I just can't see us making a decision like this without really understanding with a little more clarity what the threat is. But I have a couple other questions. As far as just the annoyance of these things and our inability to control them, because I mean, that's the conclusion I've come to is education is great. Yeah, people call, you send somebody out and you still have them. I mean, I've swept my property several times and I can't get rid of them.
Yeah, so, your area is very conducive to albopictus, right, which are very aggressive.
Yes. So my question is I mean, we're not going to be able to incorporate the extra cost for this without another increase in our assessment. So how much are the ratepayers willing to pay to control this just simply from an annoyance point of view? And I'm just going to throw it out there maybe for discussion at another time, but maybe we should do some sort of survey to see just how bad people perceive this and what they'd be willing to pay rather than having to put on, mosquito repellent when they go into their yards. And the other thing too is just, again, the cost of distribution. Was that in your report? I didn't see it there, but I mean, having planes flying and contract.
Oh, yes. Yes. So we would be having to do hand releases of these. My scheme of it would be that we would be releasing them in the pupil form. So the mosquitoes would emerge as pupae and then they would go do their jobs. So we have the district pretty well gridded out so that we can have set release points based on the numbers that we're seeing in our traps. So currently in Florida, they're releasing them as adults. So they're holding them as adults and then they're basically coddling the mosquitoes by feeding them like sugar water. But personally, I think that they'll be more effective if they have to go out and do their jobs themselves and find the mosquitoes themselves. So that would be a very quick way to do these kinds of releases.
Okay, so I think we're still in the early part of discussion here. I mean, a lot more to come, and I'm looking forward to some of these answers and a little bit more specificity.
Yeah, I always appreciate your feedback, Mr. Kosha.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize that this was just for information and education for all of the trustees this morning. And we're going to be hearing a lot more about the possibilities of this program. And we are not voting on anything or any part of it this morning. Just want to bring you along. But I see now the raised hands. I did want to go to Corey, Trustee Kaleke.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Deaver, as I recall, when you came on, the district was involved in an effort to do just this. Is that not correct?
So the effort there was to establish a rearing or a colony establishment, and that was more for resistance testing. So you need a controlled colony to be able to conduct resistance to the spectrum of pesticides that are available to us in California. There was also discussion at that point, you're correct, of eventually exploring an SIT technology with that investment that was made at that time.
Okay, so that was a little bit more involved. That's what I wanted to understand the difference, because I do recall that we were going down that road and there were labs that had been constructed in the back of the facility there without permits from the city. So I just wanted to understand how that process differed from this. So.
Right, and due to some of those restrictions and some of those issues, we abandoned that program. Those office, they've actually been converted into offices, those spaces, and Melissa has outlined, with her experience and background in actually rearing facilities and production of different types of sterile insects. The facility would need to be designed much differently than it was initially conceived many years ago, as you mentioned. So she actually has put that work together and been able to cost out a lot of not only the equipment, but then also the facility layout, the necessary biocontainment and drainage considerations that are necessary for this type of work. So you're correct. There was an effort there, but I think to Trustee Kaposha's point, I think more exploration, much more thought needs to be put into this process rather than having the space, the room, the facility, and the equipment. There needs to be a deep introspection here from the district of our ability to not only get this program off the ground, but to maintain it. Melissa did mention in her presentation that once you start a program like this, you really need to continue the releases of those irradiated males to keep that population suppressed. So to that point, it's not a cheap endeavor if we go down this road. So we have actually, there are two pieces of legislation that were suspended from the last session here in California that are being represented for consideration of this next session in the legislature. They are the green initiatives, and there are a very, very large proposed sum of grant funds for capital projects. For projects such as ours, I think this aligns perfectly with the tenets of that piece of legislation. They are capital project funding only. So they would provide about 50% of the material costs for a capital project. So for the equipment. So I did have a long conversation with our legislative committee from the state on Tuesday about pursuing these funds if they were to pass, and engaging those legislators to make sure that the availability of those funds would actually be available to vector control agencies.
Jared, what bill number is that?
I need to look it up. It got reintroduced, and so the bill number changed from last session. But I'll send that out to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry for
in conclusion, I just remember that when you uncovered the labs, you had said that that was very expensive and that if anything, it was better, at least at that time, the contract out. You had mentioned that there were labs established and it's better to contract out than try to develop them ourselves. But perhaps things have changed now. So I just wanted to understand exactly how this differed from that and you know, what has come about that's changed that. So thank you.
It might, let's call it the miniaturization of the technology. The actual radiator is about the size of a refrigerator. The genetic modification and also the bacterial injection of the Wolbachia technology require much larger facilities, you know, with a lot more personnel. It's a much more labor intensive and technical process rather than the irradiation process. So there are cost savings with this technology, as we previously considered those other technologies which were far more expensive. I think it's very important to note for the trustees, though, one of the requests from the ad hoc committee that reported out last month was to look at partnerships throughout the southern region. My preference here is not to go at this alone. Every vector control agency, specifically in Los Angeles County, of which there are 5 vector control agencies, I have engaged them to propose a joint effort of having a centralized production facility and distribution facility that we could perhaps enter into a JPA type agreement with the other vector control agencies surrounding. And that way we could cost share, and the burden of also the personnel and distribution would be shared amongst these agencies.
Thanks. Corey, does that answer your question?
Yes, Madam President, thank you.
Thank you. And then Trustee Bearcat, you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
I took it back down. We're going to have a lot more discussions on this.
Yes.
There's no reason to get into more depth now.
Right. And thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you to staff for this great presentation. And again, just like Rick said, we are going to be hearing a lot more about this. It's very promising program, and we'll be coming back to you. And I'd like to know, I think it'd be good for the trustees to know more about that legislation you mentioned, Jared, as well. So moving on, item 5, nomination of special district representative, voting member to the LA County Redevelopment Oversight Board, number 5. We discussed this last month, and we have Lloyd Johnson, who is volunteering. He would like to be formally nominated, and it's very interesting. And I apologize. We really have very little information about the responsibilities of this position. Jared, before we take a vote, Jared, did you have any further comment on this?
No, just the one comment is that you may have noticed a change in the voting deadlines that LAFCO has adjusted. So Jason, if you can click on the hyperlink there for the special district. Thank you very much. So we were just requesting that the board consider either of the 2 candidates that are proposed here. And then I will submit that on behalf of the board if a candidate is chosen today.
Okay, and if you look,
I had a question.
Yes.
Just a clarification, Trustee Menchaca. It's probably coincidence, but I just want to clarify. Are they related? They have the same last name.
No, we're not.
Okay. I just think it's important. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's purely coincidence. I did sit in on a board meeting last night where this vote was also considered. There was a fair amount of confusion between the 2 Johnsons that were under consideration on this item. So I just want to make sure we're clarifying within the motion, and that we are, if you choose to vote for to Lloyd, that it is Lloyd Johnson and not the other Johnson. So please use full name when you're making your motion.
Yes, and Trustee Lloyd Johnson, do you have any comments before we take a motion and vote on this?
I would just like to say, Madam President, I think it'd be an honor to represent not only our district, but the whole as a whole. That you got my word. I'll do the best job I can, and I'll report back to our trustees on every action that's been taken.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, comments from our trustees? Okay, not seeing any. The options are listed in our agenda. Board action, if the board concurs following the public hearing and discussion by members of this item, the appropriate action is to consider and recommend a candidate for special district representative to the LA County Redevelopment Oversight Board number 5, or after discussion, we may choose not to recommend, but do we have, this is just a motion, correct? And a vote?
That is correct, yes.
Do we have a motion for the formal nomination of Lloyd Johnson?
Armenta, I moved.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Armenta, I think.
Second by Alan Wu.
Yeah, there was a couple of us.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, I think
Second by Alan Wu.
we have a motion by trustee Armenta and seconded by trustee Wu, correct?
Yes, Alan Wu, yes.
Okay, can we please have a roll call vote? Marta?
Roll call.
City of Alhambra,
Yes.
Arcadia, Azusa,
Yes.
Bradbury,
Yes.
Claremont,
Yes.
Covina, Duarte,
Finley, yes.
Almonte,
Yes.
Glendora,
Yes.
Industry, Irwindale,
Yes.
La Puente,
Yes.
Laverne, Los Angeles County, Monrovia,
Yes.
Monterey Park,
Yes.
Pasadena,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Rosemead,
Yes.
San Dimas,
Ryan Vienna, yes.
San Gabriel, Sierra Madre,
Yes, I'm sorry, San Gabriel, yes.
thank you. Sierra Madre,
Yes.
South Pasadena,
Yes.
Temple City,
Yes.
Walnut,
Yes.
West Covina,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Arcadia, yes. I'm sorry I missed it on the phone.
Thank you, Trustee Chandler.
Thank you.
And the motion on the nomination of Trustee Lloyd Johnson for the Special District Representative to LA County Redevelopment Oversight Board number 5 passes.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you, Lloyd, on the election process. And we hope that you will succeed in this, and you'll be able to come back and then tell us all about what your responsibilities are. And thank you for being so bold to go ahead and volunteer for this without any of the details. So thank you. We're all anxious to know more about this position, but thank you for volunteering. And then Jared, you will be submitting this to the special district.
That's correct.
Or on behalf of the special district. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, item 6, consider contract renewal with SCI Consulting Group to provide professional engineering and levy administration services. This is, we discussed this last month, and it never hurts to ask. And we did go back to the contractor and ask for some concessions. And Jared, if you will please explain that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you for for suspending this item last month at the request of Trustee Bearcat and others. I think it was an appropriate request, and it was actually very well received by SCI, who is our professional engineering firm. They were more than happy to remove the requested 3%, basically a CPI in their contract rate. So you will see, Jason, if you scroll down just a little bit there to the fiscal impact section, that the first, I'm sorry, go back up. Just want to, there we go. The first 2 years of 2021 and 22 and 22, 23, those rates now remain the same. There were in the previous contract proposal, there was a 3% contract rate increase. And over the course of the 4-year contract, this results in a savings of $3,340. So, you know, not an outstanding amount of money, but frankly, I think it's it was great of them to do that and to appreciate our concerns with the overall economy and optics of an automatic escalator of a CPI.
Do we have any questions from the trustees? I'm not seeing any. And again, this is a good example. It's always good to ask, and sometimes we get lulled into just accepting automatic increases. Mr. Trustee Bearcat, you have a question.
Not a question. I just want to say thank you for following through on that, Jared. I think you're right. It's the optics more than anything else. And I think it's good to show that we're being prudent with other people's monies. Because sometimes government is always viewed as, it's not their money, just spend it. So I want to thank you for your extra effort.
Yes.
My pleasure, Trustee Bearcat. Thank you for making this suggestion.
Thank you. With no further discussion or questions, do we have a motion? The options are there in your agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Bearcat, City of Bradbury.
I'll second Lloyd Johnson, West Covina.
Okay, and so what we are, the motion is to approve then the proposed agreement submitted by SCI Consulting Group to serve as the engineer of work and provide professional consulting and levy administrative services. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Alhambra,
Yes.
Arcadia,
Yes.
Azusa,
Yes.
Bradbury,
Yes.
Claremont,
Yes.
Covina, Duarte,
Finley, yes.
Almani,
Yes.
Glendora,
Yes.
Industry, Irwindale,
Yes.
La Puente,
Yes.
Laverne, Los Angeles County, Monrovia,
Yes.
Monterey Park,
Yes.
Pasadena,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Rosemead,
Yes.
San Dimas,
Yes.
San Gabriel,
Yes.
Sierra Madre,
Yes.
South Pasadena,
Yes.
Temple City,
Yeah.
Walnut,
Yes.
West Covina,
Yes.
and the motion to renew contract with SCI Consulting Group to provide professional engineering and levy administration services passes by majority.
Thank you very much. Moving on then to district administration report. This is a verbal report by Director Jared Deaver.
Thank you very much, President Shevlin. All right, so you can see on your screen there, we just want to give you a brief overview of the 2021 American Mosquito Control Association annual meeting. We We had 3 presenters at the meeting, which was unfortunately held via Zoom. We were all looking forward to getting back to collaborating with our colleagues and giving these presentations of the outstanding work that our agency is doing in person. So I gave a presentation on organizational efficiency and management strategies that we've implemented at the agency. We also had Pablo Cabrera, who works in our communications department, who gave a wonderful overview of social media development and strategies for agencies that are not so well funded. It was very well received. And then Melissa, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right. And then Melissa also presented information about some of our surveillance modifications and strategies that we've implemented over the past few years at our agency as well. Of particular note, if you remember last month, I reported to the board that Levy Sun, our public information officer and the head of our communications department, had received the presidential citation for the California Mosquito Control Association. And that was an amazing honor that they actually created that award for him for all of his work that he has done for the association over the years. So we have an echo in the room at the American Mosquito Control Association annual meeting. Levy Sun was also awarded the presidential citation for his outstanding work that he has done nationally. I don't think it's ever been done before to have a single member receive that level of recognition from both the state and the national association on any given year, or perhaps in their lifetime. So a wonderful accomplishment, and we're blessed to have Levy on our staff and guiding his communications crew and all of the public education and outreach efforts in San Gabriel Valley.
Definitely blessed, and congratulations to Levy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Announcement of district personnel changes. This is something that we try to keep up on. Unfortunately, with COVID and all of our other priorities, some of these have slipped through the cracks of the announcement of new personnel, and then also personnel that are moving through the ranks at our organization. So Gilbert Hoaging took over as operations coordinator. Gosh, I guess probably about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. So congratulations to him. He serves directly below Jason Farned in his role as the director for our operations department. Marco Gaitan has recently been appointed, and he earned the position of Vector Control Specialist 3. And that is a lead layer position supervising about half of our infield staff. So congratulations to Marco. Freddie Ibarra has been appointed as the Vector Control Specialist 2. Also, that's a step up from our Vector Control Specialist 1 position. So very much congratulations to him. Dame Militich is also very recently been hired in as the Vector Control Specialist 2, filling a vacancy that was left from some of our internal staff, promoting through those ranks. And very recently as well, Manuel Lara, who was with us as a seasonal and as a limited term employee previously, was recently awarded the position of Vector Control Specialist 1. So congratulations to all those members of the staff. Of note for the trustees, I will say though, these were all open recruitments. We had many outside competitors for these positions. The interviews were conducted by impartial panel judges, and our internal candidates did prevail in each of these position appointments. So it really speaks to the wonderful work and training that Jason Farned has done over the years in preparing these individuals to be successful and to move up in their careers. So congratulations to each of those individuals. Announcement very quickly. You may have been in contact by Marta, our clerk of the board. If you sit on either the Personnel and Policy Committee or if you're on the Finance and Audit Committee, we will be conducting a joint meeting of those two committees, and we are targeting the week of the 22nd of this month to discuss multiple items. So if you haven't already responded to the doodle poll sent out by Marta, please do so, so we can get that committee meeting scheduled. And I'm going to throw it over to Levy's son. This item is actually his. I'm going to pitch it to you, Levy, for your bike back tour.
All right, thank you, Jared. And I just want to make one comment on the recognition at the state and national level. My goal really is driven by learning as much as I can from my fellow colleagues and experts in our industry and bring it back to our district. A lot of times we talk about different ideas, and the one I'm going to talk about now was inspired by many discussions with professionals in our industry in finding better ways to engage and provide valuable content to your residents. So I'm here to announce the Bike Back Tour. Let me go into this quick screen share here. We're going on tour throughout San Gabriel Valley. And this is from talking to residents, they found that they are zoomed out. They don't want to be lectured at. They want to have a more casual setting to discuss some major heavy hitting issues. It's kind of hard being too lighthearted with mosquito-borne diseases, but we are going on tour to make it a more casual setting where we can discuss some of the major issues that affect your communities. We are planning to host 30-minute virtual webinars in each city, and we do have tour stops. In a recent communication to you all trustees and to several folks in your cities, we have laid out some details that list the different tour stop days that are coming up. Now, originally, this was supposed to be a summer fall tour, but we realized with the lack of community events that are being pumped out, we figured let's go to the people as soon as possible. So we actually bumped up our timeline, and we have listed out our first stop on March 25th. And it goes through all of our cities, and it will end at the end of September. Now, the reason for this particular list and how it's all laid out is driven by our mosquito data that was provided to us by our surveillance department. We were able to look at historically higher than average level of mosquito activity in certain cities and prioritize our stops that way. This way, we are more objective and also able to fine tune what kind of content is needed right off the bat. The goal here is to engage with the residents, engage with some of the community leaders that can drop in and out of this 30-minute virtual webinar, but also put a couple faces to our district's name. So we are inviting people from different departments to show up, drop in, and have a casual conversation about their work in your specific city. And this way, your residents and anyone else that is tuning in can better understand how they fit into the role of mosquito control, and they themselves can become public health agents of change in their neighborhoods. So we're excited to roll this out. I will let each of the trustees know ahead of time when we're coming to your city. So don't worry about memorizing this. I will reach out to you, and I will also invite you as trustees to drop in and just say a quick hello. It's a very casual format. We're not looking to lecture to the residents. We're looking to engage and talk about mosquitoes and how we can protect San Gabriel Valley and make it more bite-free. So that is my report, and I am looking forward to sharing more about this Bike Back Tour in the future with you all.
Great, thank you, Levy. Do we have any questions of Levy or Jared on their reports? Okay, Jared, were you finished with your report as well?
I am, Madam President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 8, committee reports. We have a report of the Public Education Committee. And that is Jerry Velasco.
Jerry? Hello?
Yes,
hello?
We can hear you, Jerry.
Okay.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
yes, we had a virtual meeting a week and a half ago, and I was selected as the chair of the committee. And Levy, can you mention the other committee? Denise Menchaca's on it, and there was a couple of other people. Levy?
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me.
Well, I'll be chairing that, but basically we discussed that we had a short meeting. I will be chairing this committee, like I said, and what we're gonna be doing, that we decided that we need to have more outreach to all the cities, let people know what we're doing, let people know the programs that that we have to be able to keep our city safe. And we're going to be asking other trustees to come on board so they can become sort of like ambassadors also for the organization, so they can get the word out. Because sometimes we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of activities going on, but the cities don't know about it. And I think that we also need to get our elected officials more involved so that they can spread the word and get the word out to the city, so they can make it easier for Levy and us to be able to do our job better. So basically that's it. You know, we just had a very short meeting, and I'll keep you informed. For the next meeting, it'll be more into more detail. Do you have anything to add on that, Levy?
Yeah, just two minor things. And we also changed the description of the committee. It was originally written to be I guess it's a micromanaging kind of group, where it would require this committee to meet at least twice a week to approve certain materials by our department. And we decided that that was not the route to go. It would be in the better interest of the public and for the agency to have regular meetings, but not so often, and to have the trustees on this committee be more as an advisory group. The second thing I just want to quickly share here is an update to Trustee Velasco's point of being more transparent to the cities and know what we're doing. Is our Public Health Teachers of the Year presentation that we have done. This is our way of building that bridge to the cities and to inform them of what we've done. So last year I talked about Jerry, one of our teachers from El Monte, getting awarded. More recently, just as an update, we also had Danny Wu and Giselle Arguello from San Jose Charter Academy awarded and recognized also by their city, in the city of West Covina. And they were also given certificates from Assemblymember Rubio and Senator Rubio. So they were very, our teachers were very, very happy to be recognized for their dedication to public health and to advancing our curriculum using enhanced science content. And there you see picture to the left is Danny Wu, the middle is Giselle Arguello, and to the right is our education specialist, Christian Luna. So I'm very proud of our teachers, and we're definitely going to be using EcoHealth Vector Education as a platform to enhance the profile of our teachers in our district. And I would love to have more teachers this year nominated for this award for 2021. And that will conclude my portion of this report.
Right, thank you. And also, this is Jerry again, Velasco. The beauty of this award is, like, I think we mentioned that last time, is that the recipients of the award are basically selected by their peers. And I think that's also another excitement that the teachers felt, is that they're being selected by other teachers that do the same thing that they're doing. So we just need to get the word out more for the next round to more schools and more teachers that this is the process, and for them to get involved, because they were very excited. I know that our superintendents here in our city were very excited to be part of it, and we did it in conjunction also with the school districts, and that's an idea that Levy had about getting the cities and the school districts and the superintendents involved, so they could bring the teachers together, even though it's just virtual. So thank you, Levy, for your good work. And we're planning to really do the old-fashioned PR system on these programs. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And I also want to thank, we have 9 trustees on that committee. So I want to thank all of them as well for their participation.
Right.
Okay, item 9, trustee reports. Do we have anything from any of our trustees that you would like to share this morning? I am not seeing any raised hands. On new business, I just will mention that we are going to be got a lot of hard work ahead of us right now and putting together our draft budget for the new fiscal year. So look for that in upcoming meetings. Is there any other new business that anyone needs to propose? Okay, I noticed that we have had very, very excellent attendance. I do note that we have, I believe, about 6 trustees absent today. I hope everyone is safe and well. And if there is not having any further business, not seeing any, I will then adjourn this meeting at 8:11. Go and be safe and healthy. And we'll see you back